and you must join with right goodwill in chanting the refrain. For 'tis but you, and what he do, your livelihood to gain. Come on.
Trawlers, hey, trawlers, get sure let us be. This brave old sport, and lay the board and steer for the open sea. Trawlers, hey, trawlers, get sure let us be. Us shoot our troll, us troll, it's just a life for me.
I was just talking earlier on about the old fish market because years ago they used to lay the rays and that out.
Yeah.
And I can remember getting 27.6 a stone for rays. I mean, 27.6, what's that? £1, less than £1.50. Yeah.
I can tell you even a better one than that, tell you the truth. I always remember when I got married, I was 24-year-old day old in here. And I was with Alan Humphreys on a boat called the Wheatgrass.
I remember.
And Alan says to me, he says, I won't take any expenses out this week, no diesel, no nothing. He said, and everything we've earned, you'll have a share out of.
Growing up here, well, we used to come down and all the fish would be laid out on the floor there at the market. I don't think health and safety would think much of that now. All the fish that was landed was just laid out on the market floor. Everybody would come and bid at the auction. I would come down with my dad, and my dad was born here, and his father and his father and his father, so we were well known. And it used to take us ages just to walk the small length of the fish quay because my father knew everybody and everybody would stop him and have a chat, and that meant that probably what would take 10 minutes now probably took about an hour and a half just to come down and just go along the fish market there.
This port is known as the mother port of fishing because there was an awful lot of boats, the old boats, the sailing trawlers, which you see, which in Brixham you've got Leader, Provident, Pilgrim and Vigilance. That's the four big ones that work from here at the moment. And there are some smaller ones which come from Cornwall, i.e. the Iris and Our Daddy. They're luggers, which is a different class of boat. But even now, the modern equivalent has still come to Brixham to fish in the wintertime.
Een typisch Engels toneeltje. Vissers sloepen ten anker in een kleine haven aan de Engelse kust. Een vredevol tafereeltje. Mensen die rustig aan het werk zijn. We zijn in Engeland en tevens bij de Belgen. Een Engelse haven met Belgische boten en Belgische vissers. Vluchtelingen uit oorzaak van de oorlog. Ze kwamen met vrouw en kinderen, met haven en goed, met schip en tuig. En ze zetten zich hier onmiddellijk aan hetzelfde stoere en moeilijke werk aan de visserij.
As well in the war when the Belgian fishermen came to Brixham because they were obviously getting away from the German influx, and a lot of them came here, and I remember as a boy going down the harbour and taking bread down, and they would give you cigarettes and lighters and all sorts of things, so you'd do a banter then and swap things over, and there was quite a lot of Belgian families that actually came and lived here.
In the family. I've got Belgians married into the family, definitely.
I can remember them coming because they came from Ostend, and I can remember again looking down on them, and they were hardly buoyant. There was so much.
Well, they put all their furniture, everything was on the boats.
And also they brought neighbours and friends. Yeah. And when they came ashore, they just went anywhere that was empty.
We had them living all around us. Yes. Anybody had a room, they'd give it to one of the Belgian families.
And of course, I can remember them. There was a house opposite us that was empty, so they went in there, and they had hardly anything. And I can remember Mum and her neighbours, and it was all over Brixham. People were giving them blankets. They didn't have much themselves, but they got together and they managed to get them something.
This little town of Brixham, it's all ups and downs. Higher Street and Fore Street in this little town. But we all wait for the trawlers when they come home from sea. For there's nothing like a trawler or a trawlerman for me. The girls of little Brixham, they dress very neat. Gold rings upon their fingers, kid shoes on their feet. They all wait for the trawlers when they come home from sea, for there's nothing like a trawler or a trawlerman for me.
But whether you go with the boats to sea or stay on dry land, watching or working, fishing is everyone's business in Brixham, especially working. Keeping fish fresh is just one job, and for craft that lack refrigeration plant, ice is taken aboard before every trip. One trawler may expect to bring back over 7 tons of fish, and that means a lot of ice to keep every boat at sea.
My wife's grandfather was co-opted to come down from Dursley in Gloucestershire, and Mr. Clyburn, and he came down and opened the Brixham's first ice factory, which was established in King Street.
Well, the Americans can't live without cold beer, so they used to go into the ice factory and ask for a block of ice. Well, before it was crushed, it came up in huge
great blocks. Yeah, I remember seeing
and it was put in a sack and with an American soldier and taken out to the Hard, where they were getting ready for D-Day. But my father-in-law said to my husband, "You've got to go with him because you've got to bring the sack back." The sack was more important than the And when he came back with the sack, there was butter and there were sweets and there was quite a lot of nice things in this sack, which was, they were very kind, the Americans.
Oh, they always had the chewing gum.
And they gave us loads of sweets when they came. They used to throw them to us.
And I took a job on a local boat, so I was on the Joanna Sea, which was Bruce Cook's boat.
Oh, Cookie, yeah.
And then I fouled out with he, and then I went with Jim Moore, and that was an experience.
Oh, Jim used to take his glass eye out in the pub so nobody'd drink his straight.
Yeah, stick it in his drink.
Stick in his drink when he went toilet so nobody'd drink his drink. Yeah.
I was keeping an eye on his beer.
Yeah.
But
that was in the old Rosin something, wasn't it?
I don't know, I never used to go in the pubs very much.
So Torbury Lifeboat Station, founded and opened on the 3rd of October 1866, and that was due to an incident in Brixham that happened earlier that year in January, when a great storm happened and all the local fishing boats were lost and caught in a really bad gale in hurricane winds. And there was a lot of boats lost and a lot of lives lost in Brixham, and there was no lifeboat at the time, so the nearest lifeboat was at Torquay and at Teignmouth, and the Torquay boat struggled to get out due to the weather, and the Teignmouth boat was brought over by land and launched in Torquay. And because of the great loss of life, which was around about, the figures are debatable, but it was around 60 lives were lost, that the people of Exeter decided to raise the money to pay for a local boat to be in Brixham, and later that year our first boat come, which was called the City of Exeter, which was a rowing lifeboat with 13 oarsmen, 12 oarsmen and one coxswain and a bowman, and that was a cost of £300.
Monday morning in the month of May.
One Monday morning in the month of May.
I thought I heard the old man say,
the Rosabella will sail today. I'm going on board the Rosabella. I'm going on board Rosabella, I'm going on board right down to Fort, the saucy Rosabella.
For a month.
What are you talking about that? The first time I ever remember being bloody seasick, I'll be honest with you, I was on the Iago.
Oh, that's one of the tow-by trawlers.
Yeah, one of the 10-day boats.
Yeah, 90-footer.
And went out round the end of Bury Head there, and I felt ill. When Tom was going on the Star, I was ill. And there was old Jim Thompson.
Yeah.
Was made a boatswain on board, and he says to me, he said, "Get it up, boy, you'll feel better." Anyway, I'm being sick, one thing another, grub come up, and then next thing he says, "Get it down, boy, you'll feel better." I said, 15-year-old I was, and I said, "I wish you'd make your bloody mind up."
Yeah.
I was 6 the year war broke out, and the week it broke out. But in about 1938, we were watching Brixham Regatta because they lived in Sunbury Terrace, and we had a commanding view of the whole bay, and we could see the racing, and everybody came to watch it. You had relatives from everywhere that came, and they used to buy a big ham, regatta ham, which they ordered much like we order a turkey for Christmas.
Oh yeah.
And the house was cleaned, and all the relatives came from Cowtown and everything. And my mother stood me on the wall, and she said to me, I should be forever indebted to her because I don't think I would ever have remembered it. And she said to me, "Look at all these boats sailing, look at all the red sails, because you won't see it again."
Fisherman John stared at the moon. He'd always danced to a different tune, and people said, "John, you ought to conform, not live your life like a ship in a storm. You're floating like jetsam out on the brine. One day soon you will run out of time. Fiddler's Green will be calling to you." He gave a wry smile and said, "Yes, it's true. For songs and stories of me will be told, and if I die young, I won't have to grow old. Live in the moment is my only creed. Don't waste your time on the things you don't need." Now Fisherman John is resting far away from his harbour and home. He's gone over the bar with the last evening star, but his love and his laughter live on. He's up at the helm and steering. The east wind will ruffle his hair. As we say our goodbyes, he'll be sailing the skies, and the boatman will offer a prayer.